I'm Andrew, and welcome to episode 4 of the Neon Knitter podcast. So, I've got a finished object, a couple of whips, and then tons of acquisitions. So, let's get into it. So, I'm going to start with my only finished object, and it is my outer space sweater. I'll show it in just 1 second here. I'm first going to talk about it. Well, actually, I'll show it first. Yeah. Let me show it. So here it is. Yep, and then here's the back side. Hopefully you guys saw the back side good enough, because obviously I can't see what you're seeing when I have my back turned to the camera. Anyways. Yeah, so I don't remember exactly when I started this, but I know I finished it on Christmas Eve, December 24th. Anyways, it took me 10 days to knit. So it didn't take long at all. But it's knit on super bulky weight yarn. So yeah, so it's using 4 different colors of yarn. So colors A, B, and C call for super bulky, and color D calls for Aran. Don't know why, but it even has you go down a couple needle sizes and have you increase your stitch count to accommodate for the thinner yarn. But yeah, so colors A, B, and C are Malabrigo Rasta. Color A is apple green. Color B is the light gray, which is called whole grain. And then color C is the darker gray, which is called Sombras. Sombras. And then color D is the purple. That is Madeline Tosh TML Triple Twist in the color Ultramarine Violet. And I don't have the labels with me to show you. They're upstairs somewhere, so yeah. Anyways, so that is my only finished object I have. And I'm really happy with it. The only awkward part is my sleeve starts down here. My armpit is up here. So it's a little awkward to wear with my coat, but so I wouldn't wear it to a place in which I'd be wearing my coat the whole entire time, but I would wear it somewhere where when I get where I'm going, I take my coat off. You know, I would wear it in that scenario, but otherwise it's just weird to wear with the coat just because of my armpit being here and the sleeve starting here. It like does this kind of a thing and bunches it up. So that's just one thing to be aware of if you're going to knit this, is how awkward it is with a coat. Okay? Alright, we're going to move on to whips. I have 4 whips to share, and I'm not sharing them in any particular order necessarily, but my main whip currently is my Aurora Cabin Shawl, which you guys are probably already aware of because of my Vloguary series. And yeah, so I'm currently at row 22 of section 5. And go watch my Vloguary intro if you want to know more about my yarns, because I'm not going to sit and explain them all right now, just because I already have a whole video on that. But yeah, so I'm at row 22 of section 5, and yeah, and right after I'm done filming this podcast, I will film today's progress for this for my week 4 Vloguary. So yeah, but yeah, so that's that whip. Then here's another whip I'm working on. Hang on, there's a piece of hair on here. There we go. This is my bubble sweater. It's also by Stephen West. I only have a few more inches left on the body. I don't remember how many inches, but yeah, I've put some progress on this since you've seen it last, quite a bit actually, because I spent the weekend at my friend's house a couple weekends ago, last weekend actually, and so I wanted to have something more simple to work on because we tend to watch a lot of TV, and my Aurora cabin shawl would be too complicated to work on, so I brought my bubble sweater to work on. I got quite a bit done, and I tend to leave this in the living room by the TV because it's good TV knitting. So yeah, and there's a TV show I watch every day. Yeah, every day at around 6:30 I try to watch Wheel of Fortune, so whilst I'm watching I tend to work on this. So, however, today I did work on my Aurora cabin shawl while I was watching TV, but yeah. Anyways, then another whip I am working on, which is actually on hibernation, but it's been cast on since my last podcast episode. You will have seen it if you were watching my Vloguary series, but I have cast on Exploration Station. So, and my bubble sweater, the yarns are, it's Madeline Tosh Farm Twist. The orange is called Citrus, the blue is called Ex-Boyfriend. Yeah, sorry. So yeah, I cast on Exploration Station, which, guys, honestly, I probably shouldn't have cast this on yet, but I cast it on. I think it was in week 1 of Vloguary, but anyways, my knitting needles broke. Go watch week 1 of Vloguary if you want to watch or see my whole tangent about my knitting needles breaking, because I don't want to go into that again. In fact, I didn't even bring my broken needles over here to show you because I already showed you in week 1 of Vloguary. But yeah, these are not the size 4 needle tips I cast the shawl on with. They are replacements from the ones I broke. So yeah. And so in the meantime, I cast on Exploration Station because this doesn't use size 4 needles, it uses size 6 needles. I'm now realizing I should have just worked on my bubble sweater or even my twists and turns. Yeah, so. And you guys are probably thinking, well, twists and turns also uses size 4 needles, so obviously you can't work on it because you would have had to transfer your needle tips from one project to another, because I have an interchangeable needle set, so. But no, I'm on clue 3 of twists and turns, and it only has 25 stitches, and so therefore I could just do it on double pointed needles. So, but I'll get into that in a minute because there is progress on that. But anyways, so yeah, it's my Exploration Station. This was cast on out of frustration of my needles breaking on my Aurora cabin shawl, even though I should have just worked on my bubble sweater, but it is what it is. Anyways, here's the yarn I'm using. This is Opal sock yarn. And this is color A. This is number 2010, which is neon pink. Color B is 2013, which is the neon orange. Color C is 2011, which is the neon green. And then color D is 2012, which is neon yellow. So So yeah, those are my colors for Exploration Station. And I have finished section 1 of Exploration Station, and it is now in hibernation because I have some other priorities I need to get done. And so I will not be working on this for several months. Hopefully by the end of this year you will have seen it completed, but just for right now I cannot work on it because I have other priorities that need to happen first. And that was just kind of an obsessive cast on because I was mad and upset about my knitting needles breaking. So really I should have just worked on another whip in the meantime, but that's not what ended up happening. So yeah, anyways, enough with that tangent. Let's move on to my fourth and final whip. And I say fourth and final whip, I'm really just showing you guys the whips that I'm actively working on, keeping in mind that I'm not currently actively working on my Exploration Station, but since I've last filmed a podcast, it has since been cast on. In other words, that whip did not exist last time I filmed an episode. So, but yeah, my final whip for this episode is my twists and turns. And I don't think I really need to say spoiler alert because the knit along was back in October, but I'm still keeping it a mystery. And every time a picture pops up on my For You page on Instagram or Facebook, I just quickly scroll away so that I don't actually see what the shawl looks like. So yeah. Anyways, I have finished section 6. And I am really excited that I got it done. So I have started section 7, and like I mentioned, section 6 and 7 only have 25 stitches, and so therefore I can do it on double pointed needles. And so yeah, and I do still plan on making clues 3 and 4. I do plan on still making videos for them like I did for clues 1 and 2, even though they're extremely late. But yeah, so I still plan on doing videos for them. But yeah, there is section 6. So now I'm on section 7. And I will tell you guys why this project has been taking me so long. Because here's the whole thing where it currently is. And go watch my MCAL 2022 intro video if you want to know more about my yarns, just because I've already explained it and I don't want to necessarily talk about it again, just because it's going to make this video much longer. Anyways, so the reason I haven't been working on my twists and turns is because of Clue 3. I like how Clue 3 looks. I think this wavy cable design is really cool. But I'm just not enjoying the process of knitting Clue 3 as much as I am the rest of the shawl. I will admit, even Clue 1 I liked better. Even with all the casting on and binding off, you know. Yeah. So the reason I have not been working on Clue 3 is because it is a cable pattern and it only has 25 stitches. If I'm going to work on something that only has 25 stitches, I prefer it to be plain garter stitch or plain stockinette stitch. That way I can just power through it. Because I can't watch TV, I can't sit and have a conversation with someone, and I can't sit and watch a knitting podcast, I can't sit and watch YouTube videos, because I have to be constantly staring at my pattern because every 25 stitches I need to change my row counter. Because it's not do this plain stockinette stitch for this many inches, it's you gotta follow a pattern. So there's a podcast I've been wanting to listen to, listen being the keyword here. It's on the Apple Podcast app. Not all the episodes, some of them I gotta go on the website to listen to, some of the earlier ones. But Stacy over at Very Pink Knits has a podcast called the Very Pink Knits Question and Answers podcast, where basically there are some questions that she can answer verbally and doesn't need to necessarily make a video on. And so you can just email her your knitting questions and she'll read them on the podcast. And it's just really nice to listen to. I started to listen to it a couple years ago, but I forgot what episode I was on, so I just kind of started over with episode 1. But she has over 200 episodes. So I've been listening to that while working on this because there's no visuals involved, it's just audio. And so, yeah. So that's how I've gotten section 6 done. So I think I'm going to do that again for section 7. So that's why there were a couple days last week where I didn't have a ton of progress on Aurora Cabin. And so there might be a couple days this coming week and maybe the following week where I'm just working on twists and turns and just powering through Clue 3. And then obviously once I get Clue 3 done, I'm probably going to need my 40-inch cord again, so I'm going to have to finish my Aurora Cabin shawl before I can do Clue 4. But assuming Clue 4 has more stitches, I think I should be good to go because I'm not going to constantly have to be staring at a pattern every 25 stitches. And so that's going to hopefully make it a lot more tolerable to knit. Okay? So it's a really big success and a really big thing checked off my list to get even half of Clue 3 done. So, yay. Consider that my big win for the month. Getting half of Clue 3 done. And hopefully the entire Clue 3. So, yeah. Alright. Now we're going to move on to acquisitions. So, you guys might have I don't know that I told you guys, but I went to the Stephen B. holiday party on December 27th. It was supposed to be 2 weeks before that, but there was bad weather, so they postponed it till the 27th, which was initially when I was supposed to be going out of town to my dad's parents' house, my grandparents' house. But then my grandma got COVID. I explained that in week 1 of Vloguary because last year's Vloguary, I was at their house for week 1. But yeah, this coming weekend I'll be going to their house, so Vloguary will still have some footage at their house. It's just later in January, so we'll just do a belated Christmas with them. Excuse me. But yeah, so that means I was able to go to the postponed Christmas party, which I otherwise wouldn't have been able to go to because I would have had to leave to go out of town. But my grandma ended up with COVID, so that's why I was actually able to go. Kind of a sad reason I was able to go, but anyways. But yeah, so I have had this yarn in my stash for a very long time, and I finally figured out what to do with it. This is Lucy Neat Bee Celestial Merino Dream in the color Scarlet. Lucy Neat Bee Celestial Merino Dream. The color's called Scarlet. I have 2 of them. It is 100% merino wool, 150 yards, which means I have 300 yards. It's fingering weight. 300 yards is kind of an awkward yardage to figure out, especially because I obsessively, when I find a yarn I want to knit with, I obsessively browse Stephen West patterns before browsing anyone else's patterns because I love his design so much. But yeah, I figured out that I'm going to knit the striped vortex shawl with this. And so for the striped vortex shawl, I think this is color B. And so Stephen did a dark and a light gray, and then he did a blue. So I'm also doing a dark and a light gray, and so the dark and the light gray I bought at the Stephen B holiday party, which is also his, the Stephen B birthday party, because Stephen, his birthday's Christmas Eve, so yeah. So I got this at Stephen B as well, but just a couple of years ago. But I got the dark and the light gray when I was there. So the dark gray, I believe, is color A, and the light gray, I believe, no, the light gray is A, and the dark gray is C, I think. I don't know, one of them's A and the other's C, I don't remember which is which, but anyways, we're going to start with the light gray. This is from Ashford. This is their Tekapo 3-ply. See there, it says Tekapo, Ashford Tekapo. It says Ashford 3-ply, and then it says Ashford Tekapo, but if you go on Ravelry, it says Tekapo 3-ply. Yeah, Ashford Tekapo 3-ply. This is in color number 928. Yep, 928 is the shade number. It is 100% pure New Zealand wool, 496 yards, and it's a fingering. But yeah, 496 yards, that's a good yardage, especially for it being a commercial skein. So which means that I didn't pay a whole lot because it's a commercial skein. So then my dark gray, which if I could have found a version without silk, I would have gone with it, but this was the only dark gray I could find that contrasted enough with this in the entire store. I suppose I could have gone elsewhere to get it, but I just obsessively wanted to get my dark gray that day as well. But this is Cascade Heritage Silk. It is color number 5631. It is 80% superwash merino, 15% silk. And it is 437 yards. So yeah, this is for the striped vortex shawl. So I'm looking forward to that one. And it's all based off of this scarlet yarn that I had in my stash already. But yeah, I bought all the yarn at Stephen B. I got this a couple of years ago. And then got the other 2 when I was there. Then they had some yarns that they had like 1 or 2 left of that they just had a big sale table full of. And so this is a really old discontinued color of Madelinetosh that they were trying to get rid of. This is not a discontinued base, just this color is discontinued. So this is Madelinetosh Tosh Vintage. The color is called Begonia Leaf. It is 100% superwash merino, 200 yards, and it is a worsted. Yeah, they don't make Begonia Leaf anymore. And if you know anything about Madelinetosh, this is obviously their old label. This is like 2 or 3 label designs ago. Yeah, so it's kind of a purpley color. Anyways, there's 2 patterns I could possibly put it in. I could either put it in Knitprovisation, or I could put it in the Kenzie shawl. Haven't decided which yet. I'm leaning towards the Kenzie shawl, I think, because I might pick my colors for knit improvisation based off a shirt I got for Christmas, but I'm not 100% sure. And this color is not in that shirt, so. Anyways, I bought a skein of Tosh Vintage, actually not to knit that shawl, but for a different reason. There is a sweater that I would like to, and I talk more about this in episode 3 of my podcast, of how come I ended up with this purple TML triple twist for my outer space sweater. But the pattern I originally bought it for, I realized I should have gotten vintage, which is worsted, because this is an Aran, and this is a worsted. But I'm not 100% sure if this is going to also be the right thing, so I bought a skein in a different color to check my gauge, because I know I can throw it in something else, rather than buying the right quantity for that other project. Yeah, I was going to knit Misère Plastique by Stephen West out of this. This was going to be my color pop, and then I had some other yarns. I explained it in my previous podcast episode, so just go watch that. And then you can understand what I'm saying, because I don't want to explain it all a second time. Yeah. But yeah, so I have this so I can potentially check my gauge to see if this is the right base to get for that project before I buy enough for that sweater and then end up regretting it when it ends up being the wrong thing. So yeah. Now if you're gonna knit Misère Plastique by Stephen West, I recommend TML Triple Twist. I got gauge perfectly with this yarn, but that's just a color pop. The rest of my yarn I got gauge 2 needle sizes bigger. And so I don't want to knit my sleeves on 2 different needle sizes, so I'm trying to find a yarn where I also get gauge 2 needle sizes bigger for my color pop. Yeah. So either this will go in improvisation or the Kenzie shawl. I haven't decided which yet, but in one of those. Then the last thing I bought when I was at Stephen B was this here. This is Clarindrad Merino DK in the color Lemonade. This is a pale yellow, and this was on clearance. And I got 6 skeins of it. It's literally all the skeins they had of it, 6. I don't remember if I need 5 or 6 skeins for my project, but anyways, I think I'm gonna knit the Brio Garter sweater by Stephen West. So yeah, that's gonna end up being the Brio Garter sweater. Anyways, it is 100% merino wool, 230 meters. I don't know what that is in yards, but I go off yards and not meters, but anyways, 230 meters, 100% merino. Doesn't say it in yards, but yeah, Clarindrad Merino DK in the color Lemonade for the Brio Garter sweater. Alright, now we're going to move into the acquisitions that I ordered online. So you guys may or may not remember that I have an obsession with knitting sweaters out of like weird, interesting yarns. So like I made a sweater out of Lion Brand Little Bit of Everything, and I made a sweater out of Loops and Threads Flex, and I made a sweater out of what's it called? Patton's Bohemian. Yeah, so I like yarns that have interest to them. And so this is a discontinued yarn that I ordered on eBay. But this is Lion Brand Frothy. Um, yeah, it's a very interesting yarn. The texture of it is supposed to be like terry cloth. Anyways, it's bulky number 5, 80% acrylic, 80% acrylic, 13% polyester, 120 yards. Machine wash, lay flat to dry. I would personally hand wash it, but that's just me. The color is called Electro Shuffle. Anyways, I got 8 skeins because I'm going to make a sweater. And so I had to buy from 2 different sellers. So one seller I bought from on eBay had 2 skeins. And then the other seller I bought from on Bonanza.com had 6 skeins. And if you are unfamiliar with Bonanza.com, it's basically an eBay competitor. So it's basically the same thing as eBay, just another company. So yeah. But that's how I was able to get the 8 skeins I need, because when I did the math, it came up to 7 skeins exactly. Like literally the same yardage as 7 skeins of this. And so I had to get an 8th one, and I'm going to be knitting Pritchard by Christina Dene, because that is the most basic super bulky, or the most basic bulky 5-weight sweater I could find. All right. Excuse the rustling. But then here is another yarn that I think might be getting discontinued. I don't know for sure, but this color I think is discontinued at least. This is Lion Brand Respect in the color Ebony. This is a lightweight number 3 or a DK weight, 262 yards, 45% recycled polyester, 30% acrylic, and 25% cotton. Anyways, here is a strand of it. I have 6 skeins. I think I only needed 5 skeins, but Joann's only had 4 skeins in stock on their website. I think I had a local Joann's that had 1 in stock, but it was like way far out in the suburbs. It wasn't the closest Joann to me. But anyways, Michaels was selling 3-packs on their website, and they had several of those left in stock, so I just got 2 3-packs, and I figured having a 6th skein wouldn't be terrible in case I needed it, because if I wait till later to get a 6th one, I probably won't be able to get it because it's going away anyways. And it was cheaper than ordering a 3-pack from Michaels and then 2 individual skeins from Joann. So yeah, because Michaels didn't have them individually as far as I was aware. So I got 2 3-packs of this from Michaels, so I have 6 skeins. And I'm going to knit the Real Easy Raglan by Emily Bolduin, because that is the most basic DK weight sweater I could find. And there are other extremely basic sweaters out of these weights of yarns, just that it's the most basic one I could find for free. The only yarn weight I've had to actually buy a pattern for was super bulky number 6 weight. So yeah, otherwise I found free patterns. And then lastly, Shibui Knits recently announced that they are going out of business. You may or may not be aware of that. And so when I found that out, I was like, oh, there's a yarn I've been wanting to try. It's my last chance to order it. And so I ordered 9 skeins of it. This is Shibui Knits Nest. The color is called Pollen. Yeah, Pollen. It is 75% fine Highland wool, 25% alpaca. You have to hand wash it and lay flat to dry, which I recommend for all yarns, honestly. But unless you've like used Sugar and Cream, Peaches and Cream, or Burnett Handicrafter to make yourself some dishcloths, then you can chuck those in the wash. But other than that, I pretty much recommend hand washing all yarns. And if you use any of those 3 yarns I mentioned, not for dishcloths, but like for garments, then yeah, hand wash it. But anyways, so Shibuya Knits Nest, the color's called Pollen. It's a gold with a gray. It's gold and gray. It's interesting. It's like it's the gold yarn with like the gray wrapped around it. Yeah. Anyways, I got 9 skeins because my pattern says I'm gonna need 8. It's a DK weight. And so it is also the Real Easy Raglan by Emily Bolduin. The same pattern as the Lion Brand Respect, but anyways. Now this yarn is thinner in person than I thought it was going to be. But it's listed as a DK weight on their website and it says DK on the label. So I think real quick I'm gonna have to check my gauge to make sure that I don't have to go down to a sport weight pattern. Because if I have to go down to a sport weight pattern, I might have to order a few more skeins. Yeah, I already have a sport weight pattern picked out for basic yarns. I forget the name of the designer, but it's called Anything for Love. That's the name of the pattern. It's a sport weight pattern. But I think I'm gonna go with the Real Easy Raglan by Emily Bolduin, assuming I get gauge, because the pattern calls for size 6 needles and so does this yarn. So hopefully I will get gauge. But yeah, we'll see. Sorry if my camera angle changed. My camera randomly decided to stop recording halfway through me talking about my final acquisition, so I'm gonna just start that whole part over. So my final acquisition is Premier Yarns bobbins in the color Sirius Gray. So Premier recently announced that they're discontinuing the bobbins. They're still making this yarn. It's the Anti-Pilling Everyday Worsted, but the only way to get the fade set is to get a bobbin. Otherwise they don't do the ones where they're marled together. And the reason I bought this was to knit the Slumber Cowl by Stephen West. And yeah, so the Slumber Cowl calls for 4 different colors. Stephen used La Bien-Aimée, Merino Aran, I think. Yeah. Anyways, it calls for 4 colors. There is only 3 on here. You guys may or may not know that I, a while ago, knit the Slumber Shawl, which I had also used the Premier bobbins. I used the Goldenrod color, as well as they made 3 different solids. They made a black, a gray, and a white. Solid meaning the whole entire bobbin was 1 color. And so I got a white bobbin because I needed 4 colors. Well, of course, that has 3 times the amount of yarn on it of 1 color because it's all 1 color, right? So, and these are 3 separate strands of yarn here, so yeah. Which they still wind the solid ones as 3 separate strands of yarn, because I think they're trying to cut budgets and not have a whole 1 strand thing for the solids, which is kind of annoying, but weave in a few ends if you're making a whole project with it. But anyways, so I only ended up using about 1/3 of the white bobbin. And so when I saw the Slumber Cowl come out, I was like, yay, I can finally use another 1/3 of that white bobbin. I don't have it with me because I couldn't find what I did with it, but it's somewhere upstairs in my stuff. So once I find what I did with it, then I can cast on the Slumber Cowl at some point. So yeah, that's why I bought this, but I got it on eBay because it is discontinued. And Premier Yarns only has limited stock left of one color, and I don't even know if they still have it because I haven't looked recently. But yeah, so that is my final acquisition, and that's for the Slumber Cowl. And it is 100% acrylic, and each of the three colors has 181 yards, so a total of 543 yards, in case you were wondering. And also, a thing you need to know about this yarn is it's quite splitty. When I was knitting my slumber shawl, it kept splitting on me. It was really annoying. And if I didn't have still 2/3 of my white left over, I probably would have just picked a different yarn for the cowl, but I got another bobbin purely so I could use more of the white, because I just want to get it used up, because I don't otherwise have a use for worsted weight acrylic for a lot of things. Just that I was excited to find a yellow fade that all came together, and so that's why I knit my slumber shawl out of the yellow, the goldenrod one. Yeah, anyways, I'll definitely insert some pictures of my slumber shawl, and I did already model that, so yeah. Okay, so I just realized that I forgot to show an acquisition. So I showed all but one acquisition, because I filmed this podcast right before I went to bed last night, and so I was getting kind of tired and completely forgot about one acquisition. So it's the next morning now, and I'm sitting here editing. So I will show it now. Here it is. So last week I went to my local thrift store. It is called Flying Pig Thrift. It's in St. Paul, Minnesota. For those of you who live in Minnesota, for those who live in St. Paul, Flying Pig Thrift is at the corner of Snelling and Minnehaha. It's right across the street from Ginkgo Coffee House. Yeah, it's called Flying Pig. And here's the yarn that I picked up when I was there. Yes, this was already caked up at the store. But anyways, they're all three the same. All three skeins are the same yarn in the same color. And this is from a company I had never heard of before. Bad Sheep Yarn. And they are apparently based out of North Pole, Alaska. And this is their merino nylon fingering, or their sock yarn. 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, 463 yards. And the color is called Flopsy. Flopsy 065. And when I went on Ravelry to look up this particular color, I saw all sorts of different colors. And they were all like Flopsy 070, Flopsy 055, or whatever, right? And all sorts of different things. So I have concluded that I think Flopsy may be the name of their one-of-a-kind skeins. In other words, I think it might be just like skeins where they were trying to dye one of their colors and then they goofed up somehow. So, yeah, I think I have a couple goof ups. But they're all three the same one, Flopsy 065. But yeah, so I think I have some goof up skeins actually. Here, let me find one that really shows this. I wish it was still in a tank, it'd probably be easier to see, but every now and again they'll have speckles. And there's different colored speckles that I've seen, but I don't know. I'm going to wind these into balls before I use them, so then we'll see. But I went on their website to see what a skein of this yarn would cost. And apparently it costs $29 a skein for this particular base. And so this is $87 worth of yarn. But because I found it at a thrift store, I paid $5.99. So basically $6. So I got $87 worth of yarn for $6, and so that to me was totally worth it. And the reason I went in there is because I had to wait an entire half hour for the bus to show up at that particular corner. Yeah, because I was headed home from somewhere, and so I was waiting for the bus. But it was a half hour, it was cold outside, and so I'm like, I'll just go into the thrift store for 20 minutes. Yeah, I successfully caught the bus when I was supposed to. But yeah, anyways. And I was like, I'm probably not going to get anything. And then I saw this and I was like, yep, I need to. So yeah, that was probably my most exciting acquisition, money-wise. So yeah. And it is going to be my main color for the Brio Chevron wrap. Because if you're familiar with the Brio Chevron wrap, it's basically a scrappy project where it uses up all your scraps. And then it's paired with a main color that you need 3 skeins of. And these are the nice 463 yard skeins. So I think I'm going to have like, what, upwards of like 80 yards left of the third one. So yeah, because it's brioche. So one side shows your main color and the other side shows all your scraps. I'm not looking forward to weaving my ends in on that one. But other than that, I think it's going to be a really nice project to use all my scraps in. Anyways, so yeah, so that's my main color for the Brio Chevron wrap. Yeah, now that is officially all the acquisitions. But anyways, so that is all the acquisitions I have. So that's all I have to share with you guys. So this has been episode 4 of the Neon Knitter podcast. I'm Andrew. Thank you for checking in here at the Neon Knitter, and I will see you in the next video.